think this is what we're going to end up talking about. I can tell you where we're going to start, but you know how it goes. We want to talk a little bit of just about making, we're going to try to bring in the context for us in relation to this business, a couple of things that are important. Passion, fear, perspective. That's what I'm going to try to do. So, this is why. I'm kind of, you know how I am. I'm kind of organizing it right now. So, the story goes that way back during the early stages of the Olympics, you know, Olympic Games. You know, the Olympic Games were done for thousands and thousands of years in Greece. So the story goes that the people were the high jumpers. You know how people, you know how modern day high jumpers, you see they run and they jump over the bar and do this crazy looking thing, this backflip kind of thing. So the story goes though that the high jumpers were out there practicing and they used to just jump like we would try to jump, hop over something forward. And they would, you know, train, get better, and they would jump higher and higher and higher. And then one day, this gymnast was watching them. He was just on the side, just kind of watching them for a while, just watching them jump and watching them jump. And then one day the gymnast said to one of the jumpers, you know, I find that when I do a backwards somersault, when I'm doing tumbling and I do a backwards flip, I get higher off the ground. And that was this thing, the thought, the perspective that ultimately changed the way the high jumpers jumped. And it dramatically increased what was possible. And it dramatically increased their level of possible performance. But that insight came from somebody that wasn't an expert in that exact skill. It's an outside perspective. So
it's like how recipes are created.
All the time. All the time. So, you know, I guess part of, when I heard that story the first time, it meant a lot to me because I'm multidisciplinary just by nature. I mean, I do that on purpose. You know, I'm always trying to, you know, read a book about biology and try to figure out, well, what the heck does this have to do with art? Read a book about art, trying to figure out, well, what the heck does this have to do with me growing my business? I'm always trying to look for those ideas that come from other places. The reason why it might be a good idea to do that is because that'll be perceived as an innovation inside of that one skill set. That'll be the thing that takes you from jumping, you know, 4 feet to jumping 7 feet. It's a huge jump. What happens in the area of expertise, you get incremental growth, right? Like for years, I bet you, you know, I wasn't there, but it's pretty easy to imagine that for years and years and years and years, probably hundreds of years, those jumpers were increasing their ability to jump by inches, you know? Or, you know, something measured in inches. If I could just add 6 more inches, you know, to my bar, you know, 6 more inches to my bar, wow, what an improvement. Then along comes this outside guy that says, you know, well, what I do is this. And the next thing you know, you increase your bar jumps 3 feet, you know? So a lot of the times, what's perceived as an innovation is something that's been tried and tested and true and all this stuff someplace else, but just never applied in what it is you do. Happens all the time. You know, we're a big example of this outside perspective. And it doesn't have to be like completely out of the cornfield, right? Like I tend to be, but you know, it doesn't have to be as weird as, you know, how do I look at, you know, cooking and try to relate that to building a computer? It doesn't have to be that seemingly disconnected, even inside a broader discipline, you know, because really, that Olympic story is inside a single discipline. It's still inside of athletics. It's still inside of, you know, jumping. It's still inside. It's not that remotely disconnected. So a great example of that in modern time is in martial arts. Right now, there's an explosion of what's called mixed martial arts, MMA. It's everywhere. It's taken over in terms of human combat fighting, all that stuff. It's bigger than boxing. And, you know, if you go back, not even shoot, if you just go back a handful of years, the traditional way to learn martial art is you pick a style. And you take this one style from this one master who's an expert in this one style for years and years and years and years, and you become an expert in that style. Well, kind of consistent with what's going on in everything now, in business, in lifestyle, in finances. Now we have this blending of things in real time to suit specific needs. So now you go to any, you know, most martial arts schools, even if for marketing purposes, are trying to market themselves as, they're bringing in masters in jiu-jitsu and judo and boxing and Muay Thai and all these are different forms of fighting, because now what's really hot, or what's really hot now are these people that are blended fighters. They know some jiu-jitsu, they know some boxing, they know some all these different things. So that's a really good perspective to have on things. So one thing you're going to realize that if you're not doing that, one challenge we have is that, you know, one challenge we have is that how do you gain that insight, how do you gain that possibly useful perspective on purpose? Because a lot of the times it happens on accident, right? So now that we know that it goes on, and now that our awareness has been fine-tuned to think back through our history and realize how many different times an outside perspective could make a difference, and now we can look around in real time and see where that's going on, and we realize that, wow, this is something maybe we can use as a tool, so how can we really do this on purpose? Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So if we just dissect that story, right, a little bit, you know, it's really a good metaphor when you think about it, because the guy's trying to raise the bar. You know, it's just some good language things in there that help us make the relationship between what we're trying to do. So our goal today is going to try to help us find that gymnast in our own, you know, business life, you know, world, universe. So there are some characteristics that are common. Just like the jumper is an expert in what he did, the gymnast was an expert and somebody constantly trying to improve what he did as well. So here's a start. Right now I want everybody to take a little bit of time, like 30 seconds or a minute, and write down or think of, if you don't have paper, not everybody else has paper, so that's cool. Passion is key. So a lot of times when we talk about how important passion is, everybody thinks, everybody's so self-centered. We automatically think we're always talking about us. This is how we are, right? I'm saying us. So, well, if the gymnast, okay, write down, let's see how many names you can generate of the most passionate people you know about a specific topic. Any topic, it doesn't matter. And not all on the same topic. Just think real fast about, if I know somebody that's super passionate about cooking, just write that person's name down, cooking. See how many people you can generate off the top of your head right now that are incredibly passionate about something in their life.
Notable people, not...
No, you know personally.
Okay.
Go. So start thinking and start writing. So we'll give it like a minute.
Ding dong.
Ding dong. Stop. All right. All right. Stop.
That's easy.
Can I just finish the...
Yeah, of course. I'm just, there are no real set rules.
Yeah.
So this is the point, which you got immediately. Everybody in this room knows at least a few dozen people, more like a few hundred, or more of tons of people. How hard was it to generate 5 names that you knew that were really passionate about anything?
Yeah, it's hard.
Hard, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy when you think about it. That alone should be very insightful to you in a bunch of ways, especially in regards to building this business.
Actually, mine are all about this business.
Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
Take those people out of this, take that out of context, and then look at what you got. You know? So part of my point, though, is nobody's pursuing their passion. You know? When I say nobody, we talk about relatively.
Yeah.
Relatively, no one is pursuing their passion. Relatively, everybody's living in this world of compromise, extreme compromise. I mean, you didn't even try to fudge the list. You didn't even try to say, well, you know, I know this person always talks about X. Now let me ask you a different question. Name people that are massively influential or rock stars or icons or extremely notable in any profession, in any domain, in any subject matter. Sports. Name a person whose name you know that you do not know personally.
Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Anybody else?
LeBron
Just
James.
think, you can think of tons of names.
Tiger Woods.
Tons of names. Now let me ask you a question. If you can generate their name, but you don't know them personally, can you identify them with a passion?
Yeah.
Okay, great. This is great. Okay, so give me a name of a person you know that you do not know personally that you cannot associate with a passion. Let me let you think about that for a little bit.
Someone's
Name a name.
Yeah.
Give me a name of somebody you know but do not know personally.
Okay.
Like Michael Jordan, unless you know Michael Jordan. But you can't associate them with any type of passion.
Paris Hilton.
I would argue that I can associate her with a passion. What would you say?
Passionate about being Paris Hilton.
Social butterfly.
And she's passionate about being who she is.
You don't think she's passionate about being in the media?
Branding.
Extremely, yeah. And obviously, you get the point there. You get the
I
point
don't even
there.
keep up with that, but I just.
Yeah. Okay. So now you see how powerful. So we also know this is another kind of general soft. Well, I'll say it's a rule of mine. You can water it down and make it whatever you want it to make in your world. If most people do it, it takes you someplace average. That's just something I adopted, thankfully, when I was real young.
That's deep. Hold on.
If most people do it, it's taking you someplace average.
That's true.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I don't care what it is. I mean, that may not be a universal truth, but it rang true to me. And I don't know exactly where I got it from, but once I kind of got it and I started to look around and I realized, crap, you know, if you run with the herd, you're in the herd.
Wow.
That's just how it is. So if most people don't read, I mean, and now let's explore that little idea. Because if most people are doing it, because I know somebody will argue against me, well, no, everybody eats. Well, really? What do they eat? When you eventually get it into the most category, I guarantee you, associated with that category is something hugely average. Think about it. For example, let's abstract it out a little bit. Most people don't go to college. Y'all realize most people don't go to college. Most people don't, you know, you just think through that a little bit, you know. And that was an incredible insight to me. I don't even know who to give the credit to. But now, let's relate that back to this idea we're talking about. Are most people passionate about anything? No. So therefore, in this little equation we're making up, we're saying, well, maybe if most people that we recognize as being massively influential, successful, whatever we want to call, even to the point where we know who they are without knowing them personally, if we can connect them to a passion, but most people that don't have that, we cannot, including sometimes ourselves, maybe that's a huge key to it, right? We're saying things we all know, right? But we all talk about these things. We know the difference between understanding and knowing. Right. We all will sit down and say how important it is. Everybody in this room will say, you know, and tell our kids, you got to find something you're passionate about, do something you're passionate about. But we live in the freest country in the world, where we have unlimited liberties, and it took us a hard, concentrated effort to come up with a handful of people that are passionate about anything. Not to mention, if I said, whatever you do for a living, name me 3 people that are extremely passionate about that particular profession. How can you not know them? You follow me? It's insightful stuff. And I'm, you know, as always, I'm talking to me like I'm talking to you. But this is some interesting stuff, right? So part of the reason why we're having this we dissecting this gymnast story is the perspective that allowed the jumper to dramatically change the bar came from him having a conversation with somebody extremely passionate about something. Didn't have to be about what he was doing, just something. And we wonder why we come across all these people that don't get what we get in this business, that don't see the opportunity, that don't want to take action, that don't want. They're running with the herd, right? They're running with the herd. So maybe, how do we find people that are just passionate about anything? Maybe that's a great place to start. Because one or two things, if they have the component to be passionate about anything, do they have it in them to be passionate about something else? I keep the math really easy, right? If you can take one step, then the chances of you being able to take another step are pretty high, right? If you've never taken a step, then me gambling on you taking multiple steps, that's a bigger gamble, right?
Yeah.
Right. So how do we find what we're trying to do now is just kind of dissect this gymnast story. We're going to try to find a way to raise the bar in our own life and our own ability.
Yeah.
So part of it might be having conversation with people that are passionate about anything. So now we know, okay, great. Let's go out and at least try to consciously now find people that we know that are passionate about things. Believe it or not, we do know some people that are passionate about things. We may just not know. Right? We may just not know. And which means it's not the universe's fault that we don't know. Whose fault is it that we don't know? Ours, because our language, our behavior, our whatever we're doing hasn't brought that to the surface.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about who's great at being passionate and
Get her,
puts,
Charles.
and,
Yeah.
no,
Just-
I didn't know I was going to be on camera.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just a comment about someone who's very passionate, who's in our lives every single day and has put his or her feelings onto us and has made the entire world become passionate. And that's President Obama. He and his wife, they have always been in that world of being very philanthropic and helping. But now you see there's this huge surge of people wanting to do kind things for each other. And I think they're a great example of, having their own passions within and then putting it out there, just little drops. And now there's just this huge surge of people wanting to do nice things. So, to your point of trying to find a way to making that happen, they do a great example of making it happen on a global, standpoint.
I had a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
That having said what you said about being able to identify people with passion, I would think that would be someone that is in business already. Because if you have a business, you got to be passionate about it just to show up every day and do it.
An entertainer.
Well, I will say this though. You can be extremely passionate about something that never takes you towards being an entrepreneur. They are extremely passionate teachers. They're extremely passionate ministers. They're extremely passionate artists. They're extremely passionate a lot of things.
Yeah.
But quite often I would say, though, that if people are extremely passionate and have the ability, drive, etc., to turn that into some type of leverage model that, self-sustaining model, those end up becoming entrepreneurs. But I wouldn't say that they have to be the two things. There are no set rules. This is just a conversation for us to use in our own individual ways, right?
Yeah. 4 people who I had passionate about in your first exercise was you, passionate about personal development. Pat, passionate about business-minded. Rick, passionate about leadership because that was a learned skill for sure for him, and he explains that. Richard Call, passionate about people and bettering their lives. So actually, for me, it wasn't that hard, but that's in this world that we're in the midst of continuously.
Yeah. But, good point. But you're going to find, though, that one of the most powerful things we have as an asset in network marketing is that the industry is built around. It's built on top of. At the core, the ground you build the foundation on is this idea that it is valuable and worthy to pursue your passion, and it is valuable and worthy to help others pursue theirs. That's the sacred ground we build our foundation on. And that's, there is a wave of this awakening or perspective of people becoming more aware. And you know why that is? It's because, part of the financial collapse had a lot to do with it. Because now suddenly that people are losing crap that they thought meant the most of them, they realize, I'm still the same cat. I'm still the same person. And maybe that wasn't the most important thing. Maybe there is something else that actually is more important than, me upgrading my flat screen TV or whatever it is. But so now people are kind of forced in this world, or they're forced to be in this position to reevaluate things. And there's a large body of people now that are realigning their perspective to kind of see, well, what really does make sense. They're being forced into it.
They're not defined by their material goods.
Yeah, and in some cases, people are starting now to realize, well, since my job went away, and now I kind of get to choose, but I get to what would I really like to do, and that's that question right there, which is a soft way of saying a very philosophical question: who am I? Right, is probably a deeper, more impactful one that people are scared to really try to pursue. That's being drawn to the surface. People are really trying to find who they are, and what does that mean once they realize who they are, and what are they going to do about it? Those are things that are coming out of this little conversation people are having. So inherent in this whole idea of pursuing people that have passion and finding people in line and that stuff that to naturally do now. So what keeps people from leaving the herd? So let's just assume for a second, and this is going to be a massively oversimplification, which is fine with me for illustration, but let's assume that you're not lucky enough to be born and placed in a herd of millions of people moving the same way with the herd that just happen to be going to the place that you are dying to go. Let's just assume none of us in this room are so lucky we could just be born in that herd that we don't have to do anything but follow the herd, and the herd takes us to this place that we're going to be overcome with joy. Let's just assume that the place we want to go is a little bit of a different direction, and we're stuck in the middle of the herd, right? So what keeps people from realizing, even when they suddenly wake up in the middle of the herd and realize, dang, I want to go that way. They have these glimpsing thoughts. They have these fleeting moments of, I really want to do this. And that way could be, I really want to be an artist. I really want to teach kids. I really want to have my own gig. I want to be my own person. I want to be on TV. Everybody has this fleeting moment, and then suddenly they realize that it's completely different direction than the herd is going. So what are some of the practical reasons that keeps people from doing that, from taking that direction?
They clearly don't see a better way, and they don't see an easy route to get there.
I definitely agree with that. They don't see, especially the last half of that sentence. They innately know it's not an easy way to do that. Why? Because everybody's going the same way. Why not? Another reason might be because to get out of the herd, you have to move around or tell people to move, right? So let me ask you a question, and this is a great metaphor it turned out to be. Glad we ended up here. But let's just say you're in the middle of the herd. The people that are most around you in the herd are people, your fans, family, people you talk to all the time, right? Those are the people that are right next to you in this herd. So if you were to take a different direction, if you were to right now decide the herd's going this way, and your holy land is this way, and you decide, you know what, I'm doing it, I'm leaving, I'm going right now, you make a turn. As time progresses, what happens to you and your little group?
They follow you.
All right, so there's some issues to deal with there, right? So we're not going to even dissect some of these. Now that you see the issue, you can dissect them on your own, but immediately you start going in different directions. So if you start going in different directions long enough, and let's just say you genuinely care about this people, this little subgroup, your little tribe in the herd, and the tribe in the herd generally cares about you, and they start to feel this separation and direction, what are they going to tell you? What kind of stuff will they say to you?
Negative.
Yeah.
Negative.
Not even that, more
You should
exact.
stay with the herd.
Come back.
Come back.
Yeah, come
It's
back.
like
Come back,
negative.
right.
It's
Come back.
security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Right.
Don't leave.
So let's just say, think about this now as I go through these examples, be in this business, right? Because this is a great metaphor. So as people start moving away, and you're going this way, and the whole herd is going this way, let me ask you a question. From the perspective of one of your tribe's people, what's out the way you're going? What's out there? They don't know. Exactly. Uncertainty. So when they tell you, wait a minute, that's not going to work. Don't go that way. The world's flat. You're going to fall off. There are dragons, there are dungeons. It's not like they're against you. They're afraid. They don't know.
Unknown, yeah.
And how can you know?
And they're not
How-
certain where the herd's going either, but that's
I was
where
gonna say, you
everybody's
don't know where the
going.
herd is going.
Yeah, but it's okay.
You don't even know where the
Great
herd is
insight,
going.
right? Great insight.
Yeah, but
So
that's
the
where everybody else is
reality
going.
of it is, but this is the difference though.
We'll all be there together.
Not only that, but let me ask you a question. If you're in the middle of a tribe, if you're in the middle of a tribe, and the tribe is in the middle of a herd, and everybody is moving this direction, there's a loose logic where you can say, it must be where we should go, because everybody's going. It is okay.
No, it's like
It's-
wildebeest.
Average.
You just all go fall down the cliff together. And nobody else to stop falling
No.
down the cliff.
It's the alligator in the river. That's what I'm worried
Right,
about.
the alligator.
We all went in the same
Or the
direction
herd
seeing
that's
this.
crossing over the
Yeah.
river. The herd.
Okay, a great example. Let's take that. So let's just say, that is the point. But let's just say her point was like a wildebeest that go and they don't know that there's a cliff until they get to the edge, and by the time they get to the edge, it's too late. But this is the point. They don't know they're going towards the edge.
Yeah.
Up until they hit the edge, what they're doing is average. What they're doing is normal. Let me put it in context for you. What they're doing is socially acceptable. What they're doing is 100% socially acceptable.
And
There's
they follow
nobody
you.
telling them, there's nobody questioning them about taking the next step.
No.
The person in front of them just took that same step. The person in front of that person just took that same step. Take it out of context, put it in this business. Somebody's parents worked for a business for 30 years. Somebody's parents' parents worked for a business for 30 years. They took the same step. They took the same step. Right? So let's keep dissecting this. And what you're looking for are different perspectives. Right? So what are some of the other dynamics? If this person does make this move, and they start separating a little bit from the tribe, they don't feel any less about the tribe. They love them just as much, maybe even more. Maybe that love for them is what's driving them to be brave to take this different direction. When will this person start to feel a little bit better about this idea? Because when you make it, it's got to be some doubt in there too. Because they don't really know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
If they keep doing this long enough, pretty soon, the same way they separated from their tribe, they might separate from the whole herd. Can you survive separated from the herd?
Yeah.
Don't know, right? So what do you need? What does that brave little bull need? What does that thing need to keep going?
Belief.
How will it get it? So right now, it's moving. It's for whatever reason, it was inspired to make this turn and to try it, to start taking steps towards this different way. And it's in the middle of a tribe, which means everything is going this way, which means every step it takes this way. Okay, this is great insight. If you're taking steps with the herd, how easy is it to walk? Easy.
Go with the flow.
In fact, you will be going with the flow. In fact, it's pushing you along. Maybe if you could take your feet off the ground, you might still just kind of move that way because everything is moving that way.
Yeah.
So how easy or difficult is it to take a step going across the grain?
Tough.
Every single step is
It's hard.
is resistant, right? Every single step is harder. So what does that
You're still
person
being
need to
pushed in the
do?
direction
Because you're
of
still
the
being pushed to go
But
the
you're
other
angry.
way. And you got a different angle, a different perspective, a different reason that you're taking these steps. But the physical reality of it is every step is harder. So now you realize that every step must be harder physically, right? There's no way you can take a step across the grain, across the flow, and not have to exert more energy to take the same step. We now see that in our minds, right? What can happen to help that?
Confidence in self or confidence in
Where can that come from?
In belief.
Where can that come from?
Because you.
Success. Wins.
Okay, how can it come? Keep it in the mind of the bull. Help me understand. We're trying to figure out a way. What can that bull? Because all these are right answers, but I just want to know where can it come from? Because it's easy to say, yeah, if that bull could build his confidence, but my question is how?
He sees another bull doing the same thing.
Okay, great. So what if? Exactly. What if he saw?
First one. You got to have that first one.
What if he saw another bull headed the same way, or another bull saw him and said, "Hey, where you going?" And he said, "Hey, I'm going to this promised land, or I'm going to this place." And that bull says,
I'll go with you.
"I'll go with you." So the probability shifts a little, right? Now you got two people going against the grain, right? That's the power of coaching. That's the power of surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. That's also the power of building a team. See, that's why it's so important that a big focus we have as leaders is to build you a team, to be a part of a team. Because now you understand in your mind, in terms of imagery, wow, how big of a challenge that can be. And if you stop, you automatically start moving back to where you were. Because there's, you stop, you see that. So as you start to build a team, right, everybody get that? Great. So this is an idea. So now that you see, I guess my point I'm trying to make is what we're doing now, remember the gymnast perspective? We're doing the same thing with ourselves. We're making up this outside perspective, right? We made up this perspective. How can I look at this business in the terms of me being in the middle of a herd, right? So what would I have to do? Because a lot of, the answers, right? So a lot of what you're going to find a lot is not, a lot of times people that want to make a change or feel they should make a change or encouraged to make a change, what they start looking for are answers. But what they don't start doing first is questioning. So it's kind of hard to get the right answer if you don't ask the right question. So part of the outside perspective is to give you the ammunition so that you can reformulate your questions until you come across the right question. Because if you're not asking the right question, it's really hard to get the right answer, right? Let's go back to the bull that took this brave, bold new step. If his questions were
Or hers.
or hers, if her questions,
She's not a bull.
Oh yeah, that's right.
okay, it's almost impossible to imagine this woman being inspired and driven and motivated enough to take this turn against the grain or against the flow without her first asking herself the question, could there be something else? I mean, I'm trying to go to it's a bunch of questions she has to ask herself, but I'm trying to go to the way beginning of those dominoes falling. At some point she had to at least say, is this the only way? And then she had to dwell on that enough to realize that, and find evidence enough that, well, no, there doesn't have to be the only way. And then if you keep asking these questions, well, maybe it's this way. And then, well, maybe, what can I do to find out? So these questions have to come from someplace too. But if they don't question, most of the people in the herd are not questioning anything.
Or the herd has gone to the same watering hole every year,
Exactly.
and there's never been enough to feed the whole herd.
Right.
So somebody in the herd says, we need to go in this direction because maybe there's a bigger watering hole that's better for the whole.
And there's no alligators in that
And there's no
hole.
alligators.
There's no alligators in that hole. Wildebeest fascinate me.
Well, you know what? This is the funny part.
He's talking about a herd.
This is the funny part. This is the real funny part. If you read enough books and talk to enough people and go to enough seminars and listen to enough tapes, the difference in effort it's going to take to go against the herd and to go with the herd is smaller than we think. It's not. It's different and it is tougher, but it's smaller. That degree of toughness is much smaller than we think because it's not a huge hit we take. It's the ability to add a little bit more effort continuously. That's the difference. The difference is not, so imagine this back in the herd. Most people think that the tough part about making a change is physically being able to just turn. But actually, not really. You can just turn at a whim. You can turn right there in your middle of your tribe. The challenge is and if you take a little step, actually that's not too tough. When you try to make a big leap or something, that's incredibly tough. But when you take a little step in a different direction, you can do that with relatively little, a slight edge, a slight bit more energy. You can do that.
Building blocks, one step at a time.
One step actually is just the motion of the step at a time. If you could just do anything in that other direction consistently, though, it becomes easier to bear. It becomes easier to bear. So maybe, what you do is you take an inch, 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 right? And then you look behind you and realize, wow, assimilated a foot of difference. Your belief builds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are things that you can do to become more empowered along the way. All right? So we started this little conversation around what keeps people from taking that direction. What inspires people to even want to take that direction is that whole passion thing where we started off. If people don't have a reason to not run with the herd, quite honestly, it doesn't really make sense to try to figure it out. Why would you try to do something? Because I guarantee you, going against a herd, it's going to take more effort. There's going to be more unknown, at least perceived unknown. It's going to be more perceived anxiety, fear, stress. It's going to cause more potential complicated conversations. It's going to be a lot of things that, why would you deal with all of that? Well, to sum it all up, right? Because what you want, your passion, or what drives you, has to be bigger than all of that, right? And that can only come from something you're really passionate about. Right? That can only come from something you're really passionate about. It can't come from lip service. Can't come from something that rhymes, sounds good. Can't come from somebody else's thing that drives them and you just adopt it. It's got to come from something that is uniquely your own. A good example, like I like to jump, when I say uniquely your own, the mental image that comes to me is a child. Think about what parents are willing to do for children, right? Just think about it. Just think about what, that's incredible passion, right? Okay. You're biologically driven, it's your kid, it's all this. Okay, great. Think about what adults are willing to do to make the child. And we can even, the whole sex thing is an interesting dynamic too. When you think about what people are willing to do by that drive. Be silly, be perceived as being silly. All these things that most people have these things in their head about that are social fears, that's a context where most people just draw a line through that rule, People that are afraid to leave their boy, they're wondering how their boys will feel if they take a different direction in the herd. Well, I guarantee you, you go to a point in their life, adolescent, whatever that is, they did it. For some girl, or some girl did it for some guy. They risk being looked at as being silly. They risk a lot of things. Some people make some incredibly bad decisions based around that. Okay, so everybody see how these things can be applied. All it takes is that reason, and you will do almost anything. Just, that reason, you find the reason why. We oversimplify in this industry a lot, and we talk about you got to have a why. You got to have a why. Well, that's the biggest part of it, right? But it's not just this industry, it's anything else. We started this little exercise off by trying to see how many people we knew that were passionate about anything, not just this business. And it was a hard exercise. That's a big commentary. So that should give you, if you believe in this kind of herd metaphor, now you know that one way out of the herd is simply just to align yourself with a passion and pursue it. And I'm not even talking about this business. If you just do that, whatever it is, you are probably going to be one much more powerful human being in everything you do. Because now you're on that list of 5, passionate people. And if you can do it to the point where the people around you, when I ask them, if I pulled somebody out of your life and said, hey, name the people that are 5 passionate, okay, this is a great philosophical test about your dedication in this business. If I were to take 10 people that know you well and ask them the same question, name me 5 people that are extremely passionate about something, the question I want you to ask yourself is how many people would have said you and this business, this industry? That's a good question to ask yourself. How many people would, top of mind, oh, guy, he's really passionate about this being the right thing. Now let me ask you a question. Look at the people that are trying to make it happen in this business and have experienced whatever you perceive to be some level of success. And you go around their circle of friends, what would their friends probably say? Would they be on their friends list? Most likely. Most likely. Anybody whose name inside this business that you know but don't know personally, Todd Dinkin, Mike Zappia, people like that. These are just names that circulate around. I bet you they'd be on somebody's list or have been on somebody's list, etc. Everybody get the point. Yeah. Everybody get the point about that. So, the other thing that we talk about a lot, we always talk about, how you, and you can dissect this statement from whatever paradigm you're comfortable with. But the net of it is, it's very practical for you to become associated with, attract into your life, stumble upon people that are similar to you, who you are. So, if you're passionate about things, really, really passionate about things, I bet the more passionate you are about any one thing, I'm going to argue that the more passionate people you know about other things. It's just where you end up. It's just where you end up. Maybe that's why the herd is. Maybe that's why the herd is in the herd, because maybe the opposite is also true. Maybe the opposite says, the less passionate you are about anything, the less people you know that are passionate about anything. Right?
That's who you hang out
Maybe
with.
that's the simple equation. You got to comment. When I said,
I kind of equate that. I was just kind of reflecting back on some people that you kind of approach and they're really focused on what they're doing, and they think you're trying to convert them, but you're not really trying to convert them. And then with our particular product, it helps to enhance whatever marketing that they're doing. It's a tool that they can use with what they're currently. But I was just kind of relating to how passionate they were about what they were doing. Such as some of the authors, they want to just stick straight to authoring, and they get the perception sometimes that it's.
Okay, let me ask you a question. This is about how you feel though. When you come across people that are passionate, like those authors, how much perceived value do you see in them in potentially being in your business? A lot, right?
Yes.
Same conversation we're having. That's the conversation. That's why we're having this conversation, because what you're looking for, exactly, what you're looking for is in there. What you're looking for is in there, and that's what excites you. That's what makes you that energy. Maybe it's this is just a great thing to ponder this whole thing. So let's make this real practical and useful. I'm not gonna make it practical and useful. You make it practical and useful. Let's just assume there's a big, huge, powerful lesson in this idea. About everything we just talked about, the herd and the taking a different direction and passion being what drives it all. Okay, how can we take that idea and turn it into something practical that we can use, like instantly? How can we use that idea? I'll start it off. So, I would say that step number 1 would have to be at least finding out what you are passionate about. That would be step number 1. So, is that common? Does everybody really? Could you tell us what something you're very, very, very passionate about? I'll make them rhetorical questions first. So, ask yourself a question: can you tell the world? Do you know what you're really passionate about? And then, because we're in my house, then my next question would always be, how do you know you're passionate about it? And then my next question after that would be, prove it. Right now. Okay? Prove it. And if you can, and I want you to prove it you start to go through, when you get to that prove it stage, this is the question: how would you try to prove it? Because the reason why I wanted to get there is because when you get it to the prove it stage, it's outside of you. It's outside of you. So when I ask you how would you prove it, that's giving you some insight into what you believe and have perspective on is the path to actually do it. Because that's a way, if you can prove it, that's something you can go do. So is there anybody that has a passion?
Yeah.
That you, okay. Go ahead. Much more.
Thank you. I got my time
That's
today.
a song. Okay, so tell us something. Tell us something you're very, very passionate about.
I'm passionate about doing marketing for pharmacists.
Okay. How do you know that?
I eat, sleep, and breathe it. I love it. It's why I get up in the morning.
How do you know that's why you get up in the morning?
How do I know that's why I get up in the morning? It doesn't feel like work when I do it.
Okay. How can you prove that you're passionate about it to us? How would you go about proving it? If you had to prove it.
Reading a book on it, right?
Good answer. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. Y'all see how we went through that little exercise? Wow. So, I mean, if we do this enough on ourselves, we get better at things. You know, that's just an idea to throw out here, right? Because there are no absolutes, right? This is just a conversation we're having. But it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, right? So, find something you're really, really, really passionate about. Okay, let me ask some questions and get some feedback from the room. How would we define things? What would be the characteristics, generic characteristics of things that would define that somebody's being passionate about something? Like, for example, much more just said, she just said, if it doesn't feel like work, it probably has something to do with your passion.
Right.
That's a great, let's call that a passionate a characteristic of passion. Somebody keep notes on the characteristics of passion. Who else has a characteristic of passion? Let's just get some of these down.
It's fun.
Okay, it's fun.
You do it without having being told to do it. No one has to motivate you to do
Okay,
it.
put that down and put a big star beside it. She said you do it without being made to do it. You do it without being told to do it. What are some of the characteristics of passion that comes from passion? Anybody?
Talk about it all the time.
Talk about it all
Share
the time. Share it. She's got two. She weaved two in that sentence. Talk about it all the time / share it. What else?
I think you're creative with your passion. You figure out ways to make your passion work.
Okay, makes you creative. Makes you creative. This is all good stuff, right? What else? What else would be a characteristics of passion? Just pure generic passion. Anything else?
You pursue it.
You pursue it. I like that too. That's great.
You always think about it.
Always think about it. All right. Everybody got that little list, and we can go back and keep fleshing this list out more. You know, if you like, if this makes you feel good, you know if this is taking you to someplace better.
You look forward to it.
Right.
You look forward to doing it.
You look forward to doing it. Okay, so now we're gonna try to go through the lazy man's way of making this practical. So we just decided as a group that there's power in passion. And we just decided as a group that this list of things are the result of passion. So what we're going to try to do now is we're going to assume that the equation goes both ways. We're going to say that if we say the equation is, if I have passion in my life, I do these things on this list of passion characteristics, we're going to just roll the dice and assume that the equation both goes ways, and we're going to say, if we do the things on this list, we generate or get clarity on the passion. So let's go down that list. Let's go back and look at that list. So what was the first thing on that list? We're going to try to help us find things we're passionate about. What was the first thing on your list?
It doesn't feel like work.
Okay, so if you weren't clear on what your passion is, ask yourself take these characteristics of passion, put them in the form of a question, and then answer it. So the first question would be, what in my life does not feel like work? Write that down. You follow me? Mm-hmm. What's the second thing on the list of characteristics of passion?
Fun.
Okay, what in your life is really fun? Not what in your life do people tell you is fun. What in your life is really fun? What's the next thing on the list?
Being told to do it.
Okay, what in my life will I do without being told I need to do it? What are the things that I'm willing to do without being told or made to do it? See how this list is going? All we're doing is just turning these lists into questions and answering the questions. What else is on that list?
Told about it, share it.
Okay, what am I willing to, what do I naturally tell people about, and what do I naturally share? What do I naturally tell people about, and what do I naturally share? Folks, y'all see this exercise, right? It would be hard for me to be convinced that somebody that's happy running in the herd will take the time to even ask these questions or have this perspective on themselves. So even just the fact that you're doing this little exercise says that you might not belong in the herd. You might not be one of the herds. That might not be where you should be. It might not be your natural place. You might be a fish out of water. You might be out of your element. You might be in a place where your natural gifts cannot be expressed.
That's deep.
You know?
That's deep, man.
You just might be. I'm just bringing a conversation up, right?
That's deep, man.
It might just be, right?
Uh-huh.
So you might not. Let me give it to you in the most impactful philosophical way I can state it to myself. You may not know who you are,
Pretty much.
right?
Because they've been following, they haven't been thinking.
You may not even know who they are.
Thought about it.
Living a life in the freest country in the world with the most liberties you can imagine, in a world where more money, even in the worst conditions, there's more money flowing through our streets than in 95% of the rest of the world. And they don't take the time to look in the mirror to ask one simple question: who am I? That's kind of interesting, right? Kind of disturbing.
Masses, that's the masses of people.
Kind of.
Set of the people. That's not
Wow,
me.
that's kind of disturbing, right? It makes you, kind of touches me emotionally a lot. I mean, that's a pretty kind of
That's deep.
honest and human, very human consideration, right? Because when you think about it, maybe, this is another thought, maybe one of the few things that separates humans from every other species on the planet, maybe one of the few things, is this little idea that you can be or not be in a herd. Maybe that little idea is one of the kind of blessings of being human, right? Because you name another. Are there animals that can run in a herd? Yes. Are there animals that can run in a herd and do it all their life and do what the things around them do and just go where the herd goes and do it for generation after generation after generation? Yeah. That's not a uniquely human thing, right? Not a uniquely human thing. Is it a uniquely human thing to be afraid to just arbitrarily walk away from the herd and head out into the desert?
Yeah.
That's a uniquely human thing to be able to do that, right? Right? It's got to be against instincts to do that. Okay, so everybody get the point of that. Right? Everybody looks like they're thinking hard.
That's deep, man.
You know, I have my thought as you're talking. Actually, it's nothing to do with the business. But
Good.
my daughter, you know, a couple weeks ago we went up to Syracuse. My daughter wants to major in journalism. She doesn't know who Katie Couric is, which concerns me, at $50,000 a year. And as we talked about it, you're going through this. And last night I was on the phone with my mom because she got a report card and she showed it to me. And I said, she's supposed to take an internship. And I said, how did you get an A in internship? She said, I told him I was working with you. I said, doing what? I haven't got any work out of you. And so as I was talking to my mom, I said, Rakai is just coasting through life. She's just, because she's cute and she's in the popular crowd and she's just coasting along. And I mean, this conversation is so timely because I thought she has no passion for anything. Mm-hmm. She just figures, Mom will just figure out where, $250,000 will come from and I'll just go to Syracuse and just hang out, party and be friends.
She won't see this video, right?
I don't care if she knows she needs to. She needs to see that because I'm thinking there's no passion there to do journalism. And I would do anything if she showed me, if she's written anything, did a blog. Earl does more Earl in a month and a half is more blogging than my daughter's done her whole life. And I'm like, you don't do anything writing related, no podcasting, nothing. And I'm thinking, I'm going to put my whole life on the line, and she has no passion for this. That is scary.
Make her do
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Because
I think
me hearing that, I think she's in the herd. I mean,
I
love
her. She's a darling girl.
But what I mean by that is, I don't mean that in a negative way at all. What I'm saying, okay, let me try to change the question. How do you know this? Well, okay, this whole metaphor of the herd thing only makes sense to us because we innately believe, this group believes, that there is reality outside of the herd. That's the only reason why we can even perceive the story. That's the only reason why it makes sense to us. So let me ask you a question. For somebody in the middle of the herd, it's very likely they don't even feel themselves moving.
Yeah.
It's just where they are. You know, so part of this challenge, part of the challenge is how can you help or make, or how did you become aware that you, first of all, you have to, before you can make a decision, this is great, because we missed this element, which I think is critical. Before you can even have a chance of having whatever it takes inside to take a different direction, you have to first realize where you are. And most people, the reason why most people don't realize, in my opinion, the reason why people may not realize where they are is because they can't perceive the movement. They can't perceive the movement. What I mean by that is, direction only has, there's only direction if you're moving. Right? A herd is moving this way. There's no this way if we're not moving. It's hard to see.
Parallel to the evolving of the earth.
Exactly.
Everything is moving at the same time, so we can't tell that we're
Yeah,
spinning.
you can't tell.
Relative motion.
Yeah.
We're all spinning at the same rate.
No, it's deeper than that. Well, so we're spinning right now on the Earth at 2,500 miles an hour. The Earth is revolving around the sun, is spinning around the sun at 60,000 miles an hour. The sun, the whole, what do you call it? Our whole galaxy. No. Our whole solar system is spinning around the center of the galaxy right now at about 450,000 miles an hour. But we can all imagine, because that's what we do, that we're sitting still. Right now, right? We can imagine right now that we're sitting still. There's no such thing. So the same thing, oversimplified maybe for the sake of us just not being insane, right? Is that there is this moment of stillness. But that's what people live in. They live in a snapshot. A different way to look at it is a motion picture versus a snapshot. It's hard to have all these great big thoughts if you live your life in the frame of the picture. Makes more sense though when you see the whole continuum. The reason why you have a different perspective than your daughter is because you innately look at your daughter in the motion picture. When you look at your daughter, you see the baby all the way through where she is, all the way to where she's probably going. She's looking at where she is, right? So these are just things, you know, so part of our challenge is to realize that until we set our attention on something other than where we are, there's no distance. So there's no potential for motion, right? So we gotta, that's the part of the power of having vision, right? Which is interesting that it came into this conversation. I don't know how I got there, but let's explore it. Let's explore it, right? So even the herd has vision. Even the herd, it may not be a good one, but the whole herd is actually just following a vision. That's all it is. It's moving someplace that it's not. You know, or it believes something is there, the watering hole. But they're not pursuing the real watering hole. They're driven by the vision of the watering hole. The vision of the watering hole creates the distance, right? And that distance gives an opportunity to feel the motion. The motion makes it real, right? So stuff to think about. So these are things, so maybe the way we do it, maybe that's why helping people build a vision might be a part of. Now, who knows what the magic ingredients are? But maybe what you do when you're talking to somebody in the herd is to find out if they have the potential to have a vision. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but and to your point, these questions that we just wrote down actually are questions to actually and wake them up. To actually, if you ask someone, you know, what in your life do you do that no one has to tell you, then you're uncovering in them, and you probably use this on your daughter too. Ask her what questions that we're asking questions to uncover their passion, because she may actually understand that you do blogs, so she's gonna say what she thinks you want her to say. She's gonna say things to you that she thinks that you want to hear. So she's watching you. She knows that you write blogs. She knows that you do a lot of writing and reading. So she may be saying that, but she's not really clear. So these questions in the big picture will help us to actually uncover people's passions that they never even think about because they're so inundated with the day-to-day stuff, the right here and now, that most people don't go beyond the here and now.
Brilliant. That's great stuff.
And you know, I know all of you here are married, but these are questions I ask on dates and while I'm still single, because I ask these kind of questions, and when you don't hear an answer, when you realize that people really aren't thinking beyond today. And that's how most people are thinking. Yeah, it's like, what, you know, I'll ask the question, so what do you plan to do in the next 12 months? I mean, yeah, it's like, okay, I need to go. Thanks for dinner, I need to go. Because you realize that you can't go, where are you going? Where can you go with somebody who doesn't even know what they're doing in the next year, let alone the rest of their life? They have no clue.
So,
that's frightening.
Believe it or not, this concept of vision, this concept that you just reiterated, brings us full circle on this conversation we're having, because we started this conversation off with, and this was totally self-generated, but this is a nice, wow, this came together right. So we started this conversation off about how the gymnast was able to increase the performance of the jumper, help him raise the bar. I would argue now that what the gymnast simply did was adjusted the vision of the jumper. But the gymnast was able to make that adjustment because he was so passionate about what he did, or she did, that they did all this stuff that gave them a different perspective. So when he looked at the jumper, sort of like you and your daughter, right? He didn't just see what was there right now. He looked at it from a different perspective, a different angle. So maybe that's the power. Maybe that's ultimately why we need to find these passionate people and get them in our life, is because of that. Because they will help us get clarity on our vision. Because they can see where we're trying to go from a different angle. Even if you take it in the terms of a map on the ground, and you're standing this place and somebody else is on a hill and somebody else is in a different place and somebody else is someplace else, and you ask them, well, what do you see when you look at the same point? They're going to see different things. Or I say, whoa, there's a ditch up there. I can see it from where I'm at. You can't see it from where you are. You know, that's the power of that.
Or the cup half full, half empty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so we're at that point of asking all these powerful, passionate questions. What's the next step? So you're getting a lot of insightful information, you know, asking these questions about, you know, what are you passionate about and what in life, etc. So then once you've gathered all this information in terms of our business, what's the next step to move?
Okay,
well, I would say it's on them. Because you've enlightened, you made them aware that they have no vision, no passion beyond what they have been thinking about. And now, and so you present the vehicle.
Okay.
So all we do is, we still are the messengers. We're gonna put it out there for them, but also make them aware and conscious that they have not been thinking about their passion, what that really is, and how, you know, so. Just you're enlightening them. You're turning the switch on.
Right.
and then you turn the switch on and then walk away, and they'll, right?
That's 100%.
Say I'll get back to you in 30 days.
That's fine. Well, actually, let's look at this. I will say this, though. Okay, this may be a cheat sheet. I will say this. I don't care what your and we can test it.
Right.
But I will say that I don't care what your passion is.
Right.
I don't care what you say your passion is. It's going to take one of three things that can help you get along to it. It's going to take a re-education or adjustment of your skill set. It's going to take economics, and it's going to take support. I don't care what your passion is. So maybe to answer your question is what we need to do is to make sure that we realize that we deliver these three things.
Yeah, say that again.
We deliver the focus on personal ability. That's the personal growth and development piece. We deliver teamwork and support, systems and support. And we deliver a vehicle for economic power. Can you use these things? So let's test this theory real quick. Monica, if you don't know or want to share, just make it up. Tell me and you can actually make it up. That way you can be extreme with your answers. I'm going to ask you questions, but I want you to make it up so you can be real extreme with your answers. What are you extremely passionate about?
Cooking.
Okay, great. You're really extremely passionate about cooking. If you could, would you cook all the time?
Absolutely.
Okay. You're really extremely passionate about your cooking. What are you going to do about it?
Well, I am going to buy all the cookbooks that I can to make sure that I learn about all the meals that I like to prepare. And I'm going to research the information online. I'm going to watch the cooking shows, Rachel Ray. So those are some of the things I'm going to do.
Well, why aren't you doing all those things now all the time?
Well, it's a plan.
Okay, well, great. Monica, what we found is that, for people to really pursue their passion, they need one of three things. They need the money to free them up, to give them some extra time to work, or they need experts to help them adjust their skill sets, or they need people surrounding them to support the effort. I actually know a group of people, that's what they focus on. Would love to introduce you to some folks. So that's a generic kind of a way at seeing it. You see what I mean? But my point, though, in that example was, you can probably oversimplify and try it, but most people aren't. This is great formula. Maybe we got a really good recruiting formula because we already know that most people don't pursue their dreams.
Right.
We know that the kind of people we want to work with are the people that want to.
Yeah.
So if we can get in between them and show them that what we do is a path there, we got their attention. We probably can get their attention. And maybe that's as complicated. It doesn't get any more deeper than that. It doesn't get any deeper than that. And what you want to focus on is them talking about it. If I could have her talk about something, okay, in this engagement with Monica, what I would personally want to get out of it is her talking the most, not me, but her talking mostly about her passion, or what she really wants to do. Because that gives me, I can be the gymnast. Right. Now I can be the gymnast, right? And my job as gymnast is to what? As we just discovered 10 minutes ago. What's my powerful job as gymnast? Adjust her vision.
Yeah. Because then she'll start being aware, or they'll start being aware of how it's not as hard as they thought it would be to actually pursue their passion. Because they've thought about it. So the next thing after you think about it is to start writing it down. The various steps.
See, it's okay to go. That they don't have to go with the crowd. That you can do something else.
Okay, let me show you how my mind immediately goes into making things tools, right? So that's just how I like to, that's a habit I tried to build. So let me ask you, would you think this would be effective? So, hey guy, hey man, I need you to do a favor for me, real quick. First let me ask you a question, make sure you're the right type of person. Do you believe that pursuing your passion is powerful? Okay, great. I want you to help me do an experiment. Answer these questions. And because I want to see what your passion is. What are you willing to do without being told? And let's go back right on my list. So, Guy, what are your answers? You follow me?
Yeah.
So now, if I can have this conversation, this might be a great warm market tactic. But now at least you got an idea of what this person might believe they're passionate about.
Right.
Now I can have that conversation we just had. Well, guy, it seems like, did you know, it looks like your passion is fishing. Did you realize that before?
Right now. Yeah, not until you.
Boom, change your perspective.
Not until I thought about
This
it.
is a good thing about insight. This is the good thing about insight. Insight is like an explosion. When you can help somebody get this insight, it doesn't just change what they heard. It reorganizes their whole history and who they are. That little insight, because suddenly it comes together. Oh crap! That's what I really want to do, or that's what I really want to be. You know, if you,
Never thought
And that
they could make
thought
money
makes
in it.
them begin to take
and
that
that
step
thought,
away from the herd.
boom! That thought.
Way after you're done.
But
This
they
is the
never
cool-
thought they could make money at it, and I think that's where a lot of average people, even if they have a passion, like if you love fishing,
Right.
you may not have thought, well, I love fishing, but I can't make a living off of this. I'm supposed to pay for my house, so I got to go to work as an accountant because that's what my dad was,
Right. And that's the herd.
and that's the herd.
That's the herd talking. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time one of your friends, business partners, associates, family members, whatever, called you up and explored what you were passionate about?
No.
No.
So if you did that, would you immediately be different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Wow, interesting.
That's all
Especially if you
good.
had questions already.
Yeah.
These are thought-provoking questions.
You know,
Most people don't go that deep. Even with themselves, they couldn't probably, most people are not going to be able to tell you.
this is a
Answer that
very
question.
deep conversation we're
Yes.
having. Because, you know, I will argue that most people believe that it's what they don't know that keeps them from being great things. I can make an argument that it's what they do know that keeps them from being other things.
Yeah.
Most people in the herd would say, because I don't know what's over in that hill, I can't explore it. I could argue that, no, it's the fact that you do know that it's okay to take another step in your direction that's going to keep you from seeing what's over that hill. So, in my journal, I wrote down a while ago, this was just an insight I got from somebody even smarter than me, was that questions open the mind, which is what you just said, which I was glad to hear you have the same awareness, but questions open the mind, statements close it. Statement of facts close the mind. Questions open the mind. So the fact that you know things eliminates possibility. It doesn't create possibility. The fact that you don't know things is the possibility, is the ability for you to create things. So just be careful about what you know is all I'm saying. You know, most people are afraid of what they don't know, and they never think about what they do know, and most of what people do know is built on, we've done that before in this class, where most people's beliefs, they don't even know where they come from. Half of them are built on something that's not even true. You know? For years and years and years and years and years and years, civilization stayed in one spot because they really thought, or they knew that the world was flat. So they didn't get the experience, or that possibility couldn't impact their life. Right? Everybody get that. So this was a great conversation to have, this whole herd mentality thing, this whole gymnast, adjusted. Wow, I mean, there's a lot in there. You know, if you go back through this, but my goal is, it's great to have these conversations, but the mission is that how can you turn these into little tools? Like maybe using these questions more often, maybe that's how we start, maybe that's a tool.
Filter.
Maybe that's a great thing to start, then I'm going to immediately try it, right? Let's flip that switch.
That aha moment.
Flip that switch. You know, I tell you, and we did this before, but one of the most powerful questions somebody threw on me as a tool, they were telling me as a tool, and immediately hit me as one, and I started using it is, when people come to you with problems, and when you see insight, because sometimes you're with them when they have that flash of that other direction. Sometimes they make a comment about it. It's fleeting, but sometimes you hear it. You should say, well, what are you going to do about it? Try this on the person you know the next time they come to you and say, especially when they talk about how bad things are, you know what? This sodomy sucks. You know what? My job is an idiot. And just ask them a question, really, what are you going to do about it? And just watch the expression on their face, like, because that's not even, they're not even going down the thought of what they're going to do about it, right?
I'm just gonna complain about it some more.
Right.
That would be breaking away from the herd.
Now, that's an anti-herd conversation.